Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I am your ever-loving host, Shorty, and today we're doing an AWA studio, and I quite like AWA studios. Probably no surprise to anyone. One of the ones in my best of the year list, a couple that I'm picking up. Still waiting for Grendel, Kentucky. Don't know why it's taken this long to get to the UK, but, as soon as it arrives, I'm really looking forward to reading it. And I quite enjoyed Erratic from, was it last week or the week before? Anyway, today, it's bite-sized. And this one is a kid's comic book, and straight off the bat that means I am not the target audience for it. And I don't mean that along the lines of it's not written specifically for me, so I can't gain any enjoyment from it. That's not what I mean. I mean, the way I usually review things is probably not going to be 100% appropriate to this, because it is aimed at a much younger audience. And that's not to say they're not going to look at it with a discerning eye. But if you go back and watch these other videos and listen to the podcast I did before, you'll know I talk about things like how a comic book form can be used to tell stories effectively within the media rather than trying to recreate TVs and movies and other such kind of things. I talk about the different qualities and styles of colouring and inking and shading, and how sometimes digital colouring can look quite flat. And I go into a lot of detail about that kind of thing, as well as just what the story's about, what the writing's about. In fact, some of the writing stuff as well. I'll talk about naturalistic dialogue compared to scripted stuff, and a lot of that kind of stuff isn't really going to be a top priority for, let's say, an 11-year-old going in to pick up this comic book, and that's fine. And in a way, I've got to kind of think to myself, well, if I was 11-year-old, would I pick this up, and would it be something that appealed to me? And what was I reading when I was 11 years old? And that one is quite easy one to answer, because I was only just getting into comic book when I was 11 years old, and it started because the Tim Burton Batman movie came out, and I really liked it. So my dad bought me a Batman graphic novel from W.H. Smith's. He bought me The Killing Joke when I was 11 years old. Now, some people are probably going, what, 11 years old? Yeah, I had a weird childhood. I also watched Evil Dead when I was like 5 years old. And my auntie used to buy me the Viz annual at the same time as another auntie was buying me the Beano annual. So I kind of grew up with an odd take on things as a result of that. So yes, there's stuff I like about it that I would have liked when I was 11-year-old, but I've got to say there's also stuff I just like about it now as a grown-up, and I think that's a big selling point. I like the fact that any comic book company, especially when they're not the big two, who for them it's a bit more of a risk, is trying to appeal to the younger market. Big companies like Marvel and DC doing their younger stuff is fine because it's going to be more accessible and more recognizable to young readers. You can do things like Teen Titans Go or the Scott Young Marvel Babies kind of stuff, because they're characters that the kids would have seen, TV shows, movies, action figures, toys, all that kind of thing. When it's something like this from AWA, they're doing a brand new intellectual property. And yes, they've got Cullen Bunn involved, who's a very famous writer, but 11-year-olds probably not going to, unless they're really into comic books, aren't really going to know who Cullen Bunn is. So it has to sell itself on something a bit different, which is just pure story with art to go along with it. And we'll discuss the artwork first, because it is doing that computerized coloring, which I'm not a big fan of, but hard to argue that it's effective in this state. When you're dealing with tiny little robots, and you've got not much necessary detail in those. They are part of the story is that they look like they could be children's toys as well as robots. So you don't need to go into like Jason Burrows detail of artwork or Jeff Darrow level of artwork for that. You can just do bold and distinctive looks, and they do, and it works really nicely. You've also got just a handful of characters that you need to recognize as being distinct individuals. Quite a few of them are background characters or people who have a few lines before they disappear because they're part of the exposition and the setup. So what you need is a couple of base solid characters who have a distinct look and a distinct voice, and both of those things are managed quite effectively. Whatever you say about Cullen Bunn, the fact that he's not doing horror is unusual, but he's still doing peril, and he's always been very good at doing characters. In this particular one, the peril is kind of light and light-hearted, like a lot of kids' movies or kids' stories, should I say, especially ones involving like child protagonists. There's a pet dog involved who's a puppy who's just causing a lot of trouble, which leads to the rather interesting and entertaining. Well, everyone's going to blame the dog rather than the robots because they believe the robots are toys. They don't think they're actually government-created AI killing machines or whatever the heck they are. And it just means that the peril is kind of taken down a notch, even though if this was a grown-up movie, like it could have been a Chucky story, but it isn't, and they managed to maintain that throughout. They even have some quite cool action sequences where they highlight the fact that the not foreshadowing, but just making sure everyone knows that the dog is exuberant full of energy and is going to do damage if he's not keeping an eye on, gets an eye on, sorry, and that sets up quite nicely what's going to be happening with the robots. All of this just works. It's not over the top. It's not a really in-depth kind of stuff. You don't need it to be. We don't know why the government is making these robots or what they were for or anything like that. You don't need to. They've got out and they're doing their thing now. It's a little bit short circuit-esque, I suppose. But Colin Bunn has gone on record and said he just loves movies with robots in and loves robots in movies and TV shows. So you can see he's taking his influence wherever the heck he wants to, and I'm absolutely fine with that. It's working for me, clearly working for him. And I think yes, we do have some customers who generally go for like younger reader stuff, but they go for the Marvel and the DC things because they're recognizable. If you want to try something out, if you want to get yourself a little bit of a chance to enjoy something that's not quite that allows them to read something unique and original, give it a try. It's definitely worth a bare minimum taking a look at it. Anyway, I've gone over because I got quite into talking about this one. I'll be back tomorrow, and later on today, I'm going to be doing a slightly different part of a series. Doing my best of the year. I usually do this as just a text thing on our Facebook page, but I've actually got the opportunity to talk into a camera, and I can wax a little bit more lyrical. So the first one of those is going up later on today. So come back later. Bye.